Remember, if you want to watch what's happening in the other game, Morocco against Haiti is on BBC Two. But right here on BBC One, those Scotland players that you can see inside their shirts have sewn a quote from Dennis Law, who's Scotland's joint top goal scorer and the only Scottish player ever to win the Ballon d'Or. It says, look around the room at each other, listen to the fans out there and throw everything at anyone who's trying to stop Scotland from winning. Scotland against Brazil in the World Cup for a place in the knockout stages for the first time in Scotland's history. Let's head straight to Miami for our commentary team of James McFadden and Liam McLeod.
Thank you, Kelly. Good evening. Success is no accident. It is hard work and perseverance. Winner Pelé, still the undisputed king of Brazilian football, the shoulders of whom many have tried to stand upon. And that hard work and perseverance will be required for a Scotland team that stands on the brink of their own history in Miami tonight, where the air is thick with heat, hope and expectation. A nation that gave football some of its earliest pioneers, its fiercest passions and its most loyal travellers, is also a nation that has too often failed on the big stage. A sea of unfulfilled dreams and early exits from big tournaments. But on nights like these, history cannot be a burden. It is an invitation. And the win over Haiti on match day 1 up in Boston has given them an almighty opportunity. 1 point, just 1 point is all they need. And it would highly likely take them through to the last 32. Easier to say than to do, of course, as the mighty Brazil stand opposite them. The record 5-time winners may not be of the same gladiatorial standing as some of the Brazilian teams of the past, but it is still Brazil. And it is a Brazil under the stewardship of the great Carlo Ancelotti. 5 stars above their crest. Wherever Canarinha go, expectation follows. Wherever they play, the world watches. The Scotland fans will be wildly outnumbered for this one. You see the yellow shirts all over Miami Gardens. He grabbed a second in first half stoppage time, had one ruled out for a foul earlier, and Matheus Cunha on the hour mark made it 3. It could have been more. And now Scotland are in a frustrating holding pattern, which will either see them create history or go home. Brazil make a statement. It finished here in Miami Gardens. Scotland 0, Brazil 3.
It was a very, very difficult evening for Scotland against Brazil, 5-time winners of the World Cup, but they haven't won it since 2002. And Scotland, in their first World Cup in 28 years with their captain, Andy Robertson, coming off at half-time, may have picked up an injury. We'll get more details on that a little bit later on. But Brazil really starting to get into their stride in this World Cup. And Scotland, with 3 points, are set to finish 3rd in this table. We knew that they couldn't finish any lower than that. The question is whether it's going to be a good enough 3rd place finish for Scotland to advance to the round of 32. We will look at that later. But those Scotland fans, as we've seen, have been one of the high points of this World Cup so far. But is the party over? in Miami. Let's talk, Scott, first of all, about what we've seen this evening against Brazil. And yes, Brazil are a fantastic team, but how much was Scotland architects of their own downfall?
Well, it just shows you how good Brazil are. They've slowly came into the tournament, started the gate, first game against Morocco, but then next two games, 3-0, 3-0. And like the pace, the quality they've got in the final third is just exceptional. Scotland probably caused their own problems early doors. And as Lucas talked about earlier on in the game, they were happy for us to have the ball, the two centre-halves, and be nice and slow. But for us, we needed to up the tempo quickly. We need to get after them, because when we did press them, they made a few mistakes and we won the ball higher up the park. But there just wasn't enough quality on the pitch today for a Scotland point of view.
Will Scotland go away from this game with regrets, do you think, Rachel?
I think regret maybe would be harsh, but I think there'll be elements of disappointment, because certainly the first and second goals came from errors, and I think when you're a player and that happens, those moments do live with you. But of course it can happen in football. I do think we were naive. I think we were too passive, we were too casual at times, and just the very finer details, and I think that cost us early on. We did really well at times to hang in there, rode our luck a little bit. In the second half, we've actually created, I think, at least 3 really good opportunities. We couldn't quite find a way to put one away, and you know, I think there will be a feeling of the result does feel a little bit hurtful, certainly right this moment.
Lucas, we'll talk about all the positives for Brazil in a second, but just to sort of wrap up the Scotland conversation, you said before the game you were expecting to come up against a really tough side defensively. Do you think Scotland were what you expected tonight?
No, to be honest, I expected more, especially from a defensive point of view. I think Scotland started quite well, but as long as the game went, I think Brazil always controlled the game and forced Scotland to make mistakes. And then Scotland, of course, second half had a couple of chances and it could have gone a bit better, but I expected a lot more from Scotland, especially on the defensive side, that I think is one of the strengths of this team.
Lots of strengths for that Brazil team. We saw Neymar getting a few minutes there. See, they've had greats in the crowd this evening. Rivaldo's in there, Ronaldo is in there, and we just saw Roberto Carlos with a gold phone, because obviously Roberto Carlos has a gold phone. When you look at those Scotland supporters who are standing behind the goal and applauding the Scotland players, how do you think that they will be looking at this performance? How do you think they'll be looking at the tournament that Scotland have had so far, that could still potentially continue? How do you think they'll be looking at these 3 games as a whole?
Probably most of them are still here to Sunday anyway, because they'll be hoping that we managed to get through. Like, it's amazing that we've got to a World Cup after so many years. We need to don't take this for granted. Like, Brazil are a top quality team. We understand that, but the fans have been unbelievable, and it shows you the appreciation of the players still going along to them, and they've still stuck by them, applauded them, not booed them off the park after getting beat 3-0, because they know there's an opportunity now that they could get out the group.
They'll be looking at this tournament in the way that they've looked at the 2 previous Euros that they qualified for under Steve Clarke, where they've come out and said before this World Cup, we had regrets around that. We obviously will come back to talk about Neymar as he sort of makes his way over to chat to people in the crowd. But we've looked at the Scotland campaign and the players have looked at it and thought, we came away and felt there were missed opportunities there. I just wonder if you can see learnings in that Scotland squad for this tournament.
I think there have been learnings. I think for me today, though, I feel there's similarities today in terms of that Hungary game at the last Euros in Germany, when I felt very similarly, Hungary said, let them have the ball and we'll get chances when we break forward. We'll get chances if there's more space to exploit. We maybe think they might struggle to break us down and we'll be able to exploit that. And I felt there was similar elements to that today, and I think that may be a little bit frustrating. I think when maybe the players get the chance to reflect back and see some of the scenarios. That said, I think the Morocco game, we gave our best. Haiti, we obviously did get that win, which was an incredible game, incredible moment, history-making. And I think today, as Scott's already said, Brazil are a top team. Disappointing goals to lose, but sometimes you've got to as well respect some of the quality.
Yeah, we'll look at some of the highlights of that Brazil performance, and we'll talk about their chances in this year's World Cup. Let's take a look at the group then and kind of try and put all of this into context. So Brazil have extended their record of finishing top of their group at every single World Cup since 1982. Morocco then finished as runners-up because they drew with Brazil and they have a worse goal difference than Brazil. Scotland, as we know, now have to wait for results in the other groups to find out if third place with 3 points will be enough for them to progress to the last 32. And they'll be looking at that goal difference of -3, and that will be making Scotland very nervous at the moment. Haiti are heading home. So will 3 points with a goal difference of -3 be enough? The 8 best teams out of the 12 that finish third in their group will advance to the knockout stages. Now, a 3-0 defeat means that they currently rank as the 6th best side. 3 points, -3, as we said. But the majority of teams are yet to play their final group match. So their points total potentially could go up, and they could then obviously increase their goal difference. However, before this round of games, Opta said a defeat by 3 goals tonight gives Scotland about a 50-50 chance of progressing to the round of 32. So a flip of a coin, there is still a 50-50 chance of Scotland advancing to the round of 32. But given how precarious their position is, Scotland might have to wait till Algeria take on Austria in the early hours of Sunday morning to find out if they have reached the knockout stages of a major tournament for the very first time. I think in that game, a point is enough for each of those sides to progress to the round of 32. So we will watch and wait to see what happens with some degree of interest, as we will as John McGinn speaks to Ailey.